Okay. We're back on. Sorry about that, folks. The internet cut out, but came right back. So, we reviewed our economic calendar already. We got a few minutes till PPI. So, we are still in a couple of stack squeezes. We still have a 2 hour intact. The 1 hour and 30 minute have fired. And we're approaching the top of that 2 hour. Obviously, we'll have to see what candle we get with PPI, but if data comes out favorable, wouldn't be surprised if we pop through yesterday's high, right up to that zone or through it. And we do still have our daily and 2 day squeeze sitting above. The extent of that gives up to 40.56. And we do have a daily Keltner here at 40.36. So those are the key levels I'll be watching to the upside, past that 40.71 and the daily 200 that we are approaching. If that data is not so favorable and we see a negative reaction, again, we're in this 2 hour squeeze and we're in this range. We have our support zone at that 39.53, 39.61. And we have, the resistance that we hit yesterday at 40.17, staying in this zone, in this range. Overall, is still looking bullish, right? We can slip down to test that 30 minute down at 39.80, and even getting down to 39.41 is testing the 1 hour and 2 hour. 45 MAs and bouncing there and still heading up is still bullish and holding MAs to head higher. So just saying we can slip back and still be in the safe range, right? The safe bullish kind of pullback. That 4 hour 45 catching up to 3900 and 3922. If you remember my prep from yesterday, I said after this big push up that we've had, if we pull back and hold this 3900, 3922, at the worst at 3878, that's still a good spot to bounce and continue on this rally. So we still have plenty of room before this gets in any way looking bearish. And yesterday's sell-off was nice and strong, but again, it just held up above Friday's lows, and we're already pushing through Friday's highs. So just a measured pullback and profit taking, and they probably loaded up calls for later in the week at Beast. So we've got our targets to the downside, targets to the upside. Let's see how we deal with this 2 hour squeeze top. Let's see what we get with PPI in a few minutes. On to NQ. NQ pushing new highs over yesterday's. So looking like they're rotating into tech, maybe a little harder this morning. Take a quick look. Yeah, NQ up 1.5%. And ES only up about 1%. So definitely some relative strength in NQ in tech. Like I talked about yesterday in prep again, we need to see tech kind of pick up the torch and start to rally. YM and Ready are a little bit extended. They've been helping lead this rally. So if they start to take a break, we need to see NQ pick up the slack. So nice to see that it's leading, it's lending to that thesis that we might see a good catch up in a lot of tech names that have been getting beat up. Next stop for NQ, getting up to that 12,000 and up to this daily and 2 day squeeze top. 12,000, 12,100, the targets above, and could get there very easily. on this PPI candle if it's favorable. If we do slip back, basically looking for us to hold this 11,677 today. We did not quite get down to test it yesterday. We were holding those squeeze bottoms. That 2-hour squeeze bottom still sitting right down near there. So if we do start to reject or have a drop in from PPI, holding here today is still bullish and a good spot to load long. Should we start to give that out, then it's back to 11,500 where the daily 8, daily 50 sit straddling that key level. So that'll be the big target to the downside. The daily 21 slowly catching up near 11,400. The ready. The ready did a decent job holding up to that daily Keltner in these squeeze bottoms, getting over the daily 200 yesterday. Almost got up to 1900 before rejecting squeeze tops and coming back to that daily 200, close below it. Now back above it. So let's see if on the ready, come on, there we go. Let's see if that daily 200 at around 1875 provides enough support. PPI numbers coming out, looking a little favorable. We are running into squeeze tops here. Going into open, let's see if PPI pumps right through them, right through highs, and we open above them. In that case, we could pull back to test these highs, right? We'll have to see where we open. Looks like we're already coming back a little bit. But opening near squeeze tops, we could always have a dip back. So if we do, looking for that daily 200 to hold. At the worst, these lows from yesterday to bounce us up and get us through 1900 with the goal of trying to push up to 1920, where that next Keltner sits to the upside. Past that 1941 big key level, but that might be out of range today. Yeah, that's a little bit out of range. YM. It looks like NQs may be popping even harder than the rest. YM almost made it up to 34,000 yesterday before giving back, but held up at our 500, 600 level here. Now we're right back knocking at the door of 34,000. If we keep trucking through that, then we're looking at 34,500 where that third Keltner sits to the upside. YM's already fired its daily squeeze to the upside, and it's carried, carried the market up to this 34,000. So let's see if we continue to resist it and stay in this zone between these key levels while our daily moving averages slowly catch up. If we start to give out that 5 or 600 on 33,500, then the daily 8 sits just below that. But overall, we've got a good floor setting in here. Let's see if we can keep pushing. Well, and even if YM starts to take a break and NQ starts leading, the market still can try to push higher. Come on, Toss, don't freeze on me. There we go. And real quick, we'll just take a look at ES up to 40.42. Let's drag this up. There we go. ES pumping, mainly on NQ. So next, wow. Next stop is that 40.56 and the daily 200. NQ getting through 12,000 on this pump. Almost up a full ATR, up 3% pre-market. Wow. So, like we said, NQ is going to try to carry the torch now, and it's taking off. Arriving at 12,000, 12,100. Likely going to have a little pullback. Let's see how it deals with 12,000. And not surprising, Apple's a big part of that pump that's coming up. Taking off through 150. Next stop is our zone above at 153.8, 154. Daily 200, sitting just up right near the recent highs at about 155. Wow, nice pump on Apple. If we come back for a test, we'd want 151, 150 to hold. Otherwise, we fall back into our range. AMD. Straight up to the next key level, 77. Getting past third Keltner. If we do have a pullback, looking for that 75.25 to hold. It was the highs that we were topping out at. And if we keep trucking 78.30, 79, there's a number of key levels on the way to 80. Amazon. Man, all of tech pumping up. Already up. I'm going to open up like 4 or 5 points. Next big stop on Amazon is this 104.25, 104.50. The last spot we rejected and sold off from. And if we can keep trucking, it's up to 106 and that first Keltner to the upside at 107. Past that, the daily 50 sits around that 114. Just looking at where can Amazon go in this recovery. Plus, Walmart reported better than expected earnings, and so not surprising to see Amazon taking the pump as well. Man, look at that. Pulled right up to 100 and just sat for a little bit. They probably loaded hard yesterday. So let's see how it deals with that 104.5. Could give us a little pullback to 100 before heading higher. BA. Gonna be gapping up as well, but still has that 180 to deal with. Right at the top of the squeeze. Let's see if it rejects and starts to come back. We are at third Keltner. It could be time for us to, reject 180 repeatedly and roll back to that 170 where that daily 8 sits. Maybe even back to that 200 at 160. Cat. Cat knocking on the door of 240. Already tapped at pre-market. Next stop's 245. This 246.5 and 250. If she just keeps going. Man, how strong is Cat? In the last few weeks, it's gone from like 180 to 240. Coin. And hopefully, this shouldn't be too surprising to anybody. I tried to talk about this yesterday in prep, and as this drop was happening in the room, I said we are falling, but we're just getting to moving averages and key levels. They could just be dumping it to load up into that PPI for a big old gap. And here we are. Coin. Getting up to our key zone above. This 56, 58. And if it can just keep going and get through the last couple of days' highs, trying to get up to the daily 21 at 60, 62. I alerted to coin on Friday, having the potential to start breaking out and make that move back to the mean. And we're getting that. Yesterday, just pulled back and settled at that key level. Now we're right back up, ready to keep trucking. Google. And hopefully it's starting to make sense. A lot of these tech names starting to take off. They've been beat up, starting to get above their mean finally, while other names like Cat and BA have just been tearing up off their mean up to the third Keltner. A lot of people look at the market and think, how can it keep going up? Well, it's all rotation. We had leaders that got us up off the bottom. Those leaders will start to take a break, and these laggers will start to play catch up, and the market will keep pumping. And we need rotation on a good move, on a good trending market. If everything's just getting bought, there's a greater possibility that we just give it out and pull back. But if we have good rotation on the way up, then it's a strong trending market, right? We don't want to keep looking for the next short to go down to new lows. We want to keep trying to buy on the pullbacks to keep going higher at this point. Google arriving up at the daily 50 and at this 98.78. Let's see if it provides some resistance and gives us a little pullback. If so, looking for these highs around 97 to hold. And if we keep checking to the upside, 100, 101, 103. And I know Watch called out late in the day that Google was having a ton of shares loaded up. Now going to have a nice gap up. So let's see if they keep trucking up to 101, 103. Past that, we're getting past third Keltner. We do have the top of a 2-day squeeze forming up here around this 106.5, 107.5. So could be the target where Google's trying to get to. And the rest of the week could be a nice rally. GS. And on a very strong move up. So this could be a name that needs to start taking a break here soon if tech's going to lead. But overall, holding up above 380. Next stop will be 390, 395. But let's see how it deals with yesterday's high. And if it starts to go sideways above 380, starts to give out 380, back to 375, 370 where the daily 8 sits. Oh, JPM. Getting back up near yesterday's range. Wouldn't be surprised if this one stays in between that 133 and 136 and maybe starts to top out and show signs of coming back. Got down to the daily 8 yesterday. Let's see if it wants to give that a retest. Should that give out back to the daily 15, daily 21? Overall, this 125 would be a great spot for it to pull back to and load up to continue. Ugh, meta up to 117. Gross. I'm gonna put a little alert on this bad boy. Just because it is a little bit of a sharp uptrend. It's carried up to the daily 21 and as we push higher. So if we start to run into some resistance and come back, want to watch that trend line because it could spell a stronger pullback in meta. It has been a name getting beat up. Obviously, it's way below, so it's not something to really worry about today necessarily. But just looking as the week goes on and as the uptrend in the market and tech goes on. But got back above this 113, now pushing up to 118. Next big stop on meta will be that 123. But let's see if this Keltner around 118 gives it resistance and causes it to pull back to that 113.5. As long as we're holding above that, then I'd be looking for continuation up to that 123. Microsoft. Oh, Microsoft did a great job holding above 241, even when it sold off yesterday. Man, those 250s, I'm sure we're probably just hitting beast at the bottom and about to be opening in the money. If Microsoft can keep trucking, next big stop, 255, right at the top of this daily squeeze, nope, 2-day squeeze, where we could start to run into resistance. Past that 260 where the third Keltner sits, 266 where that daily 200 sits, around 269 as well. So if we do take out that 255 and Microsoft remains strong and trying to lead to the upside, that's the next big key target. If we start to reject 250 and come back looking for 245, 241 to hold up. Netflix. Surprised it's not opening at 333. Netflix, amazing day yesterday from 288 up to 310. Now going to be opening above our key levels at 307-ish. So if we do start to have a pullback, looking for that to hold, could be a good spot to go long. Obviously, give that out. We're coming back to retest 300, but holding 300 or holding this 307, good spot to go long for a continuation to the upside. The big key level is to get to 333. That fills the gap from the couple of earnings ago when we sold off. And then 340. So definitely might want to be watching those strikes as Netflix continues to look strong. NVIDIA. NVIDIA got up to 165 in that third Keltner yesterday. Now going to be opening near 170. I have the daily 200 up at 182. So let's see if we can hold 165 on any pullbacks. Then we'll try to continue up to that 175, 180, 183, or 182 and a half, where that daily 200 sits. If we start to give out that 165, likely coming back to test 160. QQQ. Got back to hold that 285. Now going to be opening at 295 almost. Wow. Next big stop, obviously, at 300. Big key psych level. Third Keltner to the upside. Past that, we have our daily 200 sitting right up near that 309.5, 310, 311. It's a big key target. But we have this 2-day squeeze top to deal with. With these daily squeezes that we're running into on a number of names, what it can cause is we've had a good rally up off the bottom. If we run into these squeeze tops and can't get through on current trend, current drive, it can start a pullback that is still small, a measure like a healthy pullback, sorry, to test these moving averages, right? The Keltners are just standard deviations away from the moving averages. And as we run into third Keltner on a number of things, we could just get a slight pullback to the mean, which would still remain healthy, and then allow us to keep moving to the upside. Just basically, profit taking and measured pullback to continue. But overall, let's see if we can get up to 300, and on a dip, looking for about that 289, 288 to hold. SPX. Going to be opening up 73 points higher. So going to be opening around this 4020. Let's see if it can hold yesterday's highs on a dip, 4,000, 4,008. If we can hold there, it might be a strong continuation with the goal of getting up to that daily 200, which sits at that third Keltner around 4078. Obviously, we have 4050 to deal with on the way. SPY up at 402 already. So on SPY, let's see if we get a little dip. Looking for that 400 to hold, right? That's what we got to yesterday and rejected. Big key psych level. So let's see if we get that dip to 400. Good, could be a good spot to load long. We start to lose that 400 back to 395, but if we can hold and keep going, looking to get to 405, 407 where the daily 200 sits. Next big key level past that 410. Tesla, gonna be opening right near 200. So even though Tesla was a little bit of a lagger yesterday, once it got back above that 190 midday, it held it on that pullback. And overall, just a wedge. So I'm going to be opening up near this daily 8, near squeeze tops, near this 200. Let's see if it continues up to 200 and then starts to have a break to come back. If it just rejects and starts to fall it open, looking for about this 92.5, 93 to hold. Kind of your pre-market base, if you will, even though we had that little wick down. I'd be looking for it to try to hold there. If it gives out, coming back to 190. Let's see if we can get that continuation to 200. Next stop past that, 206, where that daily 15 is almost caught up to. And 206, 210. Oh, the daily 21's right there. So, yep, that's what we're trying to fight back to, the mean. UVXY. All right, got down below $9 yesterday, and the sell-off got back above. Now setting new lows. Basically, if we can get continuation to the upside on the market, looking for UVXY to continue this journey down to 8.5, and down to this third Keltner around 8.3, we'll call it. But if we're going to get a pullback on this big gap up, we'll likely see UVXY come back up to test 9. Maybe that 9.2. But if we would start, if we do get up to test this and reject 9, that could be a great spot to load long on the market, reject 9 and come back to take out lows and keep heading lower. In VIX. Even with this big gap up, going to be opening near this 23.33, and we have a little range from yesterday on VIX. Would not be surprised to see VIX stay in this range. Even if we continue to pump, it could be a slow little drip on VIX where it stays above 23. But if we are going to get continuation on the upside, we need to see VIX get below this 23.3, head back to 23, and try to continue that journey back down to 22.5. We do have what looks like a 2-hour squeeze that's starting to form there, right near that 22.5. So we could even get a rally, or further upside today. This gets near 22.5 and starts to bounce, and the market pull back. If we're going to see a pullback near open, we'll likely see VIX hold above this 23.25, 23.3, and start to bounce up to try to test 24. If it gets through 24, up to that daily 8 and this 24.5 at the top of this 2-hour squeeze, which could just mean, a little pullback on this big gap up. Watch for the half gap level. which, let's see, we close kind of near 3970, opening up about 70 points. So yeah, coming back to test, yeah, let's just say around that 4010, 4015, maybe that 4017, kind of gets you a half gap fill. Definitely watch those highs. Already starting to come back some. We might start a little downtrend into open and open near this 420, 4020. But yeah, that's it for today on prep. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Good luck today, and we'll see you in the room.